Hey guys, it's Bill from Linden, Tennessee. Well, I got a little bit of a setback for the old Cub Cadet here. This belly mower isn't going to work, unfortunately, and that is because it just pulls entirely too much power. The mule drive takes the power from the pulley on the front of the crankshaft, or in this case, the front motor, drops it straight down, bends it back 90 degrees, and then takes it to the bottom pulley, the middle pulley of the deck here. This is just a 44-inch deck. Uh, they also had 50-inch decks and 38 and others, but and I tried to get some information about what size pulley the original engine would have had, and what I came up with was anywhere from 4 to 5 inches. And a lot of times guys would step that pulley size up just to try and get a little bit more tip speed on their blades and get a better cut. So that's kind of what I did here. This is the pulley that I had on there. This is a 5-inch OD pulley, and then the belt ends up being about 4 inches. And whenever I put that on there, I use this knob up here to slowly ramp up the speed of the motor for the mower, and then use the switch to flip full power to the motor, and that just saves arcing on my contactor. Whenever I did that, and then I'll monitor the amperage here, and whenever I did that, the amperage spiked up to like 22, 25, and so I shut it down immediately, and I had a little bit of smoke coming out of the middle. I don't have humongous wires coming from this little speed controller, and a little bit of the smoke came out of it. Not all of the smoke, but a little bit. So that's not good. So then that's when I had the large pulley on. I went back and forth with Napa 3 or 4 times trying to get the right size belt. But I do have this smaller pulley. This is about the same size pulley that I use on my pull behind mower, and it works fine. In that situation, the motor is mounted so the shaft is vertical, and then it just directly drives the pulley on the deck. It's basically just one of those, and it doesn't have any problem with that at all. So I thought maybe that was my problem. I was overdriving those blades too much, and it was just pulling too much power. So I stuck this one on there and managed to find a belt that was just hanging on the wall here that fit close enough that I could at least power it up and see what happens. And it did not overamp my controller, and I was able to switch the power takeoff on. I wasn't able to get the belt tight, so it was sort of slipping, and you could hear the blade slowly increasing in speed, increase. But I was still monitoring my amperage, and I was seeing like 60 amps coming out of the motor, or going into the motor, and that's just too much. Like, I don't see 60 amps with my other one when I'm actually mowing. So that 90 degree just saps the power, which is really surprising because every Cub had one of these. It's crazy. Every Cub had one of these. So it was just, for 50 years or 60 years or whatever, it was just unnecessarily wasting fuel, basically. And I know a lot of people don't really care about that. I care about that deeply, which is kind of why I'm doing this. But so that's not going to work for me. I got to come up with something else. This mower, I used this mower to cut my yard last week. So I just put on that hitch back there, and then I made a new bracket for my electric power takeoff. So I connected my pull behind mower and mowed the entire grass, and I've got about an acre's worth of cut, and it did it in about 45 minutes or so. And the little guessometer said that I had at least 50% of battery left. So that lines up really good. I was hoping to be able to do about 2 hours and 2 acres with this battery pack. So that's lined up really nice. But again, that is pulling normal amperage, not what this thing is. So I got to come up with something else. I got a few options. Let's open the hood here. Got a few options. One of the options, which is, well, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to do it, but I'll describe it anyway, would be to take this motor out. It's got a horizontal shaft. Take this motor out, flip it so it has a vertical shaft, and then have the pulley drop down here and then run the belt or run the deck directly, kind of like my pull behind does. Now that would work. That would work great, probably. But that is a good idea that I should have thought of 6 months ago. And in order to do that, I'd have to basically redesign the entire inside of the frame, cut out the existing motor mounts, probably notch the frame sides out. Then I'd have this huge pulley hanging down in the weeds, and because I'd have to have it below this axle. It'd just suck. I don't want to have a pulley hanging down that low. So that's kind of not going to happen. The other option I have, of course, is just to keep on pulling the pull behind, and that works fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I've been using that thing for 5 years now, and it works like a champ. I could upgrade the mowing deck. I could actually use this mowing deck. I could upgrade that deck to a larger, wider one. Maybe get a 50 or even a 60-inch deck. That would be kind of sweet. And then I could just take this motor out completely, take that motor out completely, and then just mount it on the deck permanently. And that is definitely an option, and I am considering it. The other option I have would be to, as you can see, I've started kind of doing this, run one of these little cogged belts down, and then make a front power takeoff. And then that front power takeoff could have like a PTO spline or something similar, and could go to a big ass front mower. This is the 60-inch deck off of my Kubota. Man, when you get this thing off of the tractor and look at it next to this little dude, it really puts it in perspective how big a 60-inch deck is. So that's probably a little bit too much. I'm sure this motor has the balls to run it, but man, what a monster. There's a guy that I follow on one of the groups on Facebook. He's got a articulating John Deere, and he did something similar to this. He put a front mower on his, and it's really cool. So this is something I'm looking into. But you see how this one's got a shaft drive? Several different makes use a shaft drive, and that is something that I could do also. So yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. I'm probably going to just not do anything for a little while. Just kind of noodle on it for a little while, a few weeks or whatever. Just continue to use the pull behind. It's fine. Maybe keep my eye out for a 50 or a 55-inch deck that I could either convert to a different pull behind or consider doing this to it if I can find a deal. But yep, that's kind of where we're at. So other than that, this thing works fantastic. I spent a little bit of time messing with the throttle programming, so I got it really nice the way I like it, and everything else on it works fantastic. So real pleased with that. My wife, she made a cool little E for me, so we can kind of set it aside a little bit, but not too much. And then I got this little sticker that kind of breaks up the emptiness and boringness of my engine bay. But all right, guys, I think that's going to cover it for this weekend. I hope you all have a good Memorial Day. That's going to be tomorrow. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.